All right, and welcome back to Denny Talks About College. This week we're doing a series on professors. This is probably the most serious video of the three in that series. What to do if you suspect your professor really does hate you. Now, the other two videos in this series are kind of a comical take on things and kind of a realistic take on things, ways to that it might cause you to not be a professor's favorite student, to say the least. But suppose you really do run into some trouble with the professor, how should you proceed? Well, that's what I want to go over in this video, to give you some tips of mine. Like I've said before, I've been in higher education for over 10 years, and nearly all of that time I've been in the classroom teaching. So, and not to mention holding a master's degree, and of course doing that, I've sat in my share of classes. So this is my advice on how to proceed if you perceive there may be some conflict between you and the professor. Number one, don't assume the worst. I think sometimes it's human nature, we just assume the worst. We make more out of a situation maybe than is warranted. Some things to keep in mind is professors do have many students, and also I'll tell you from personal experience, professors, we're people too. We make mistakes, we have emotions, we have bad days, we have days we get up on the wrong side of the bed, we have days when the whole world is irritating us. So if you discuss something with a professor and they come off maybe not the friendliest on a certain day, maybe they're having a bad day. It doesn't mean they necessarily hate you. So don't always jump to that conclusion. Don't necessarily assume that you're being singled out either. You also want to remember that you will be expected to be an adult without someone constantly kissing your butt, so to say. Sometimes I think a student will assume a professor doesn't like them, when in reality the professor just simply won't baby them, maybe like they've been babied at other parts of their life, and maybe that's what's going on. Maybe it's not personal, but maybe the professor is just not going to hold their hand to the degree. Maybe parents, other guardians, K through 12 teachers, and others have up to that point in their life. You also want to keep in mind your professor isn't your friend. Professor is not your bro, okay, so to say. A professor is just that, a professor. Typically, professors are people who are somewhat distinguished in their field. They usually, they weren't just hired off the street to teach a class. They got to that point because they know their field, they know their craft, they've got the credentials to be there, and they're typically respected people in their fields. So to think of them as like a glorified babysitter is probably demeaning at best, and they're not going to interact with you like that. They're going to be professional, and they're going to expect the same courtesy from you as well. So if you do suspect that either your professor hates you or maybe things haven't gotten off to a good start, like I said, number one, don't assume the worst. Number two, arrange for a face-to-face meeting. Now, even though face-to-face meetings are great, I'm a communication major, I love a good face-to-face meeting, there's still some ways this can go very wrong, so let's talk about that. You don't want to be confrontational if you do this. Don't arrange a face-to-face meeting. Don't walk into their office and say, "Why do you hate me?" And you probably wouldn't say that. But don't be overly confrontational. When you go to the office to talk to them, you want to build bridges, okay? You don't want to burn them, so to say. Sometimes we also perceive conflict isn't there. I mean, I've had this happen at work, in my personal life, a number of times in life, and like I said, being a communication major, I've probably studied it more than most, but sometimes there's not really any conflict there anyway. We just, maybe it was a result of them catching them on a bad day or whatever, but we perceive something's going on and it really isn't. Sometimes a little bit of this one-on-one FaceTime can really help. If you go talk to them in their office, don't accuse them of anything. "Why don't you like me? Why are they so hard on me?" Stuff like that is not going to be appreciated by a professor. They probably, quite frankly, don't even have time to deal with stuff like that. And it's probably either going to create a problem when there is none or make a bad situation worse. So in either situation, I would encourage you to stay away from accusing them of anything at all. It's good to ask them for feedback and to let them know that you are trying. One of the best things you can do to get on a professor's good side is to let them know that you take the class seriously and that you're trying, that you care about the material. Nothing I can think of is going to get you more brownie points, so to say, with them than that. Just letting them know that you take the class seriously and you want to do well in the class. Okay. If you go talk to them, you don't want to commit any of the thought posed from my ways to make your professor hate you video, either really video, but the one that's a little bit more serious. You don't want to do any of those things. That might make the relationship even worse than it either is or you perceive it being at that point. It's good to ask professors for feedback, but if you're going to do that, you want to be prepared to accept the feedback. because you don't want to waste their time, but you can, here's something else to think about. You can go and ask what I call a bridge building question as well. And it's not going and just taking up their time, because like I said, professors tend to be busy people. They may have a big course load. They might be doing research and have other projects aside from teaching your class. So you want to keep that in mind as well. But there have been a few times when maybe I've been kind of uncertain where I stand with a professor, and I'm going to ask them a question that I do care about the answer to, but I'm just as interested in building that bridge and building that relationship as I am the answer. So I'm not saying go and flatter them and waste their time, but sometimes a bridge building question can just let them know that you were trying. The video, I sought out a professor, that's several videos back. Go check that out. That's actually kind of what I was doing there, in addition to, I did want to improve my test score, but I was just as interested in cultivating that relationship with that professor, and that did turn out very well for me. Number 3, if you get feedback from the professor, be sure to follow it. It'll probably be to your disservice if you go and talk to them and take up their valuable time and get feedback and then don't follow it. That'll probably put you in a worse position than when you started, because not only are you not trying in the class or not working to your potential, but in addition to everything, whatever it was going wrong before, in addition to all of that, you sat down with them, you took up their time, and then you didn't follow the advice. And I guarantee you a professor will not be happy about that. So if you're going to get them, or go talk to them and get their advice, be sure to take it. And also, as a side note, don't ask for advice you're not ready to accept. Don't ask them, hey, what's my writing like? How are my writing skills? And then they give you some feedback. What? You mean my writing's not perfect? Of course it's not perfect. None of our writing is truly perfect. So don't ask for feedback that you're not prepared to receive, because professors will probably tend to not hold back on that. So just be prepared to receive that feedback. Let's see here. Also, like I said, you want to be sure that you're not doing any of the things that might make your professor hate you. I'll give you an example from the video. Maybe you're a discussion hog in class. Maybe through doing something that you think is going to earn you brownie points, you're answering every question that a professor asks. In reality, you might be depriving other students of the opportunity to ask those questions or to participate in those discussions. And when you think you're earning brownie points with the professor, you might actually be putting yourself on their naughty list, so to say. I don't think professors usually keep those, but just kind of, metaphorically speaking, you might not be doing yourself any favors. And of course, that's just one example. But sometimes, sometimes I think you can even try too hard and it can backfire, and that'd be a perfect example. Of course, there are 10 things on that list. Again, go check out the video. I'll tell you too, from a teacher's point of view, here's my take on teaching. We're imperfect beings, and I'll go ahead and tell you that we have some students we like more than others. I'm not going to sit here at 11:30 at night, halfway delirious, and lie to you and tell you that we love all of our students equally. Well, I mean, I do love my students equally. Do we like our students equally? Not always. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I've had students that are a complete pain in the butt. I hope it's okay to say that, because I just did. My policy is even if I like a certain student more than another student, I don't want to show it in class. I want to treat everyone equitably. I want to treat everyone the same. It's human nature to like one person more than another. I think if we say we're not doing that, we're just lying to ourselves and everyone else. But what I will never do is treat a student differently because of that in class. My classroom is a place where everyone is equal, everyone is valuable, everyone has a place, and everyone deserves to take great things away from the class. I mean, I've had students where I love them. They're some of the best people. I'm truly saddened at the end of the term because I won't get to see them again. By that same token, I've had students where it's my second or third time having them, and my skin just crawls when I see them on the roster. And I've had everything in between. But you know what? When your students are there and it's class time, it's showtime. You put on a show. That's what you do. Okay, you gotta put out your best performance that you can do that day. So regardless of how you maybe feel about people who are in the room. So hopefully during your academic career you really won't have too many negative run-ins with faculty. But if you do, hopefully these tips can help you from a communication standpoint to maybe disarm things a little bit and have a productive working relationship moving forward. If this doesn't work, sometimes I think it's relatively rare. Sometimes you will have a faculty member out to get you. There are things you can take, steps you can take rather, that'll kind of depend upon where you go to school, but sometimes things like going to a department chair or going to a dean, if you suspect, for instance, you're being discriminated against, harassed, or something like that. So, and of course, if it's a major issue like that, don't let it go. But a lot of times these little perceived conflicts in class may really not be that bad at all. And like I said before, almost all faculty members teach because they love not only their students, but they love their craft. They love whatever it is they do, and they're certainly not there for the money. They're there because they want to see students do well and succeed. Almost all faculty, almost every professor you have is going to be teaching you for that reason. So hopefully this has been beneficial. This has just been my take on teacher-student conflicts. I've been on both sides of it a time or two. Hopefully this content has been helpful. Again, please like this video. If this has been helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel. My goal is to put out 1 to 2 videos a week. I'm kind of cheating and doing 3 videos this week, but I just hope to help a lot of people with this content. So thanks again for dropping by, and I hope to see you soon.